Hey, and welcome back to our video series on building your first application with the Bridge framework. In part 4, we'll cover how to authenticate your application and explore different methods available. Now that we have our two data pages created, one to input data and the other to output data, we can go ahead and password protect these data pages. And to do so, we need to navigate to our authentications object and go ahead and create our very first authentication. What we need to do next is choose our data source. Now, if you recall from the second video, we did create the user table that contains all of our user information. It has the email field, it has the password field that we can choose as our login fields. For your setup options, you can choose Express, which is a very quick configuration where you can choose your email and password combination. But I prefer custom because you get a lot more customization options that you can enable on that login experience. So for example, we can choose standard table or view to authenticate, which is the table that we have selected up above. Now, one thing that I want to mention here, inside that table, everyone is an admin. So meaning everyone will have the same exact permissions. However, if your use case calls for different roles, maybe admin, manager, supervisor, you want to add a field in that table to differentiate those user roles. And maybe you can call that field role. Then what you're going to do is use the views to filter out based on that role field. Who's an admin, who is a manager, who is a supervisor. And ultimately what you're going to do is then choose the view as your data source as opposed to a table. The only reason why I'm using table here is because everyone in that table is an admin. However, if I had different views to separate based on my role field, then I would choose the view from this dropdown. In addition to being able to use the standard table or view, Caspio offers something that's called directory. So if you choose that, you will typically see this information dialog box that says the directory user authentication method requires a directory as authentication data source. And what that basically means is Caspio offers, if you click on the burger menu, Caspio offers something called directories, which is Caspio's built-in identity provider or IDP, where you can still manage and provision all of your users. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages to using directories versus standard table or view. To get a full list of all the differences, you can visit our knowledge base at howto.caspio.com, but just to mention a few, and it's really going to depend on your use case and what's important to you when it comes to authentication. With directories, you can enable out of the box two-factor authentication. That's not something that you're going to be able to get with the standard table or view. It's still secure, you still get the login screen, but you don't have the capability to do two-factor authentication. Another thing that you might want to consider is, let's say you want the admin to log into the application via the web and be able to make users active or inactive. That's something that's available with the standard table or view, but it's not available with directories. If you authenticate with directories, you will have to log into your Caspio account, go to directories, find those users, and from there modify their permissions. And the last thing that I'll mention here is with directories, you're somewhat limited in terms of how you can design the user login experience. You can still change your logo, change the background color, but standard table or view authentication has a little bit more flexibility when it comes to layout and the aesthetics and designing the overall look and feel of the login experience. In the video today, we're going to use the standard table. Down here below, you have external identity providers. So even with Bridge, if you want to use an external ID service or SAML SSO to connect maybe Microsoft Active Directory or Azure or Okta, you can accomplish that by picking a radio button here and then connecting that external IDP. Here you will paste your certificate. If you wish, external users from that IDP to log into your Bridge framework applications. So to keep things simple, we're going to use the standard table or view. Here are my two login fields, email and password. You do have additional settings down below that you can expand. Take a look at this. It's also very useful. For example, do you want to provide a logout destination? Maybe you want the users to be redirected to the home page. There's also timeout and redirection. You can specify how long you want that user to be logged into the application before they're automatically logged out. And you can also specify a destination page. And when you're done making your changes, all you have to do is click on Create, give your authentication a name. I will call this Bridge User Authentication. Click Finish. And now we have our authentication created that allows users to access those two data pages. The final step is to navigate back to your data page. And whatever data page you wish to authenticate, you're going to click Edit. You're going to hit Next. And you'll find this section here for access and security. Enable the checkbox and simply just apply the authentication that you just created. Let's do the same thing for the report. We will click Edit, Authenticate. And as I mentioned in the previous video, when it comes to editing on the results page, now if you navigate to those checkboxes, if you want the users to be able to edit on the results page, you can enable inline edit, grid edit, bulk edit. You have other options here for inline delete if you want your application user to have these capabilities. Once you're done, you can click on Finish to save. And now both of the data pages are authenticated. Let's add a sample user to our table so that we can test out the functionality. We'll go into our user table. And here you can list unlimited number of users. Caspio will never charge you per user. You can have 10,000 employees, 100,000 employees, allowing you to scale and grow without hitting those per user fees. So let's add John Doe at company.com, and we'll put the password here to be maybe test 123 exclamation. Let's repeat that. Hit submit. Let's go back to data pages. And let's go ahead and preview. So we will hit preview on our submission form. And let's log in as John Doe at company.com. Password test 123 exclamation. And as soon as we log in, we can now see that form. Let's go ahead and fill this out very quickly. Say Sarah Lee at contact.com. Some of these fields are not really required, so we don't have to fill them all out. We'll just make up the zip code, set the status to open. Follow-up date can maybe be the 25th. And let's just input some notes. Sarah wants to learn more about our services. We'll hit submit. Your submission was successful. Let's open up our second data page, which is the report. So let's hit preview. And now we can see that submission that came through for Sarah Lee. So that's it for part 4. I hope you enjoyed the video, learning how to authenticate our applications. I definitely encourage you to try both methods, which is the standard authentication versus directories, so that you can see the difference and which one makes more sense for your own use cases. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the final video where we talk about deployment. I'll see you there.